everyone, it's me Ella,
And it's me, Kim.
and welcome to this week's episode of the Sustainability Spiral. This is a special episode of the podcast because it's our first Sustainability Spiral book club episode.
Welcome to the book club.
Welcome to the book club.
Spiral is book club.
We need to think of a name.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah. Any name suggestions, let us know.
Yeah. But for now, the Sustainability Spiral Book Club to give it its formal title. I'm so excited for this. I feel like I've got a lot to say.
Me too. And like, I am grateful to have an excuse to read nonfiction because I'm such a fiction reader.
Yeah.
I'm so bad. One of my goals for this year is to read more nonfiction. My aim was 4
Nice
nonfiction books.
Mm-hmm.
We've now done 1. Well, I've now done 1. So 3 more to go.
Perfect, because we can have a quarterly book as part of our book club.
Yeah, it'd be good.
So I think you're going to smash those goals.
My goal is done.
Yeah. What book are we talking about this week?
So for our first book club book, we have read. I have it right here in my hand.
Physical copy.
Wilding, The Return of Nature to a British Farm by Isabella Tree. A more appropriate name there could not be.
Yeah. I feel like we picked this book because we actually visited the Knepp Project, which is the Wilding project that the book is based on. And it's like how they established it, like the process that they went through to get to the end point of where the Knepp Project is now, which was like this absolutely amazing oasis of biodiversity. And we went there last summer with some ex-colleagues, and I was just blown away by the like golden light, bugs flying through the air, Tamworth pigs running around, like all of this amazing different like plant biodiversity that we were surrounded with. And it was just very unlike anywhere that I'd been before. And like, I grew up in rural Northumberland. Like, I spent a lot of time outside as a child. And even that, I feel like at the Knepp, it was just like such a elite version of what like British nature can look like. So it was really cool that we saw more, almost like the end of the project, and then went back through this book to see how it was established and why they did it, and etc. etc.
Yeah, and I definitely had like multiple people, including the people we went to Knepp with, like recommend this book to us. So I'm glad that we kind of chose this as our first book and read it. I think you're right, especially having that experience of like going there and like having this like almost like safari experience that you often associate with like going to some crazy far off country, but right at home in your back garden.
Yeah,
which was really cool. Well, not in your back garden, but.
And
do we start with a quick synopsis and then we can get into like our thoughts on it, just so everyone knows what the book's about?
Yeah, good idea.
So Wilding was published in 2018, and it is, I suppose it's a memoir, I would say.
Yeah.
A non-fiction memoir. Telling the story of the Knepp experiment, this rewilding experiment in West Sussex that Isabella Tree and her husband pioneered, I suppose. Yeah. And it kind of stems from this land that was very like used for very intensive farming for a really long time. And over the kind of course of the book, that becomes unsustainable economically, and they turn to figure out kind of what could they do next. And that's what the book explores.
Yeah. And what did they do next?
Well, that's the question.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Okay, so before we properly get into the book, Kim, what was your rating out of 5? Gonna go out of 5?
Yeah. 5.
Okay.
So proper Goodreads style.
Yeah, nice. Hit me.
I'm gonna go for the book 3.
Ooh.
Sorry. I think that's more me problem than the book problem. Just a caveat, we have also just watched the
film. We wanted to, so we've been there, we've read the book, and we've now watched the movie.
Yeah.
So we've absorbed this in every single possible format that we could, I think.
Yeah. IRL.
Cover basis.
Yeah, black and white, and in the medium of moving picture.
Yeah.
I am very much a person who prefers the medium of moving picture. So for the film that you can watch on Amazon, Not an ad.
Please don't sponsor us.
Yeah, no, please, Jeff, go away. I think for the film, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Wow, nice.
Which I'm not going to say it takes a lot for me to give a film 5 out of 5, because I do really like films and like movies and documentaries. I just think that they often can, I think that they often can tell a story in a much more emotive way. And I feel like the emotion in the movie was portrayed a bit better than in the book.
Yeah. And I think especially with something like this where it's about like the land and the change in the land, like seeing that in a film or film documentary version, like it is much more accessible, I think.
Yeah. And 3's not a bad score.
No.
But big up the film.
Nice.
What about you? What would you go for?
So, not to disagree agreeably, trademark, the rest is politics. I think I'm going to go the other way around. So I, as I said earlier, I'm not a non-fiction reader, so it took me a while to get into the book.
Yeah.
But once I got into it, I really enjoyed it. And I would probably give it like a 4. I'd probably give it 4 out of 5. I felt like it really like told a story and like built as the book went on, which was really nice. And there was lots of like kind of recurring themes that you came back to, and I really liked that. And there are pictures in it, which helps, I think.
Yeah, they're my favourite bits.
I think there's a picture book. Maybe we should have done that one as well.
I was straight to the middle of that book looking at the pig and being like,
oh, the pig, the Tamworth pig is so cute.
I know.
And we saw some baby ones when we were there, and it was the best.
It was so good.
So I think I'll go 4 for the book, and I think I'll probably go 3 for the film.
Interesting.
But I think I would recommend doing like both, but I think I'd recommend watching the film after reading the book.
I also would agree with that, because I think it often helps to revisit stuff through different mediums. So I did find the book almost sometimes a little bit challenging to get through, just because it was very I don't know, I think it was technical, but also I kind of felt like it assumed prior knowledge.
Yeah, on certain things for sure.
Whereas when you then watch the film adaptation of it, like having a visual of what animal they were talking about helped.
No, definitely. I think the film is obviously like very high levels, like what, an hour and 15 minutes, and it pretty much like follows pretty much the same like trajectory as the book does. I think like almost like chapter by chapter it introduces things in the same way. So, and it does it at quite a high level. So I suppose you could watch it and then the book could give you more of the detail, but I feel like you spoil the journey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You'd like kind of like, not that it's like unraveling a crazy plot twist, but like I feel like you kind of just like get a visual aid to like what you're reading afterwards, which is quite nice. And it also had some weird reenactments that I didn't love, but that's
I
just
feel like
me.
that gave you the ick.
Like it did give me the ick a little bit. But I think it's like a good to cover all the bases of like, you're going to get the people who really want to read stuff. You're going to get the people who really want to like watch something. So I feel like they've covered their bases.
Yeah, agree. I'm glad. I'm happy.
Okay, well, should we get into chatting about the book itself?
The first part of the book that really stood out to me and that I loved was the introduction of the tree man. So shortly after, when Charlie and Isabella, who are the farmer couple who had all of this exploited farmland that wasn't really yielding returns anymore, they started to investigate like what they wanted to do. And they had a visit from this amazing man called Ted Green. Okay, Isabella Tree.
Appropriate name.
Yeah, I was going to say.
God, these people are made for this.
Ted Green, Isabella Tree. Like, because you actually couldn't write these characters better in terms of the names.
This is a true story, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
These are real people.
It's unbelievable. And Ted Green was this man who had started out by working with the Crown Estate at Great Windsor Park. And he was like managing the parkland full of ancient oaks. So he had a lot of, I guess, bespoke knowledge of ancient woodland that Isabella and Charlie wanted to learn about at the Knepp. Because I can't remember what they were saying about the loss of the oaks on the land, but I think that they had started to basically see that the areas around their ancient oaks on their farmland, they were like seeing the quality of the tree kind of declining slowly, and they were like, how do we like save these trees, and like what can we do?
Yeah. And this is kind of really where it all seemed to like start from, the whole like rewilding journey that they went on, right? It seemed like a kind of turning point.
Yeah, he seemed quite pivotal in terms of getting them to see the value of an ecosystem, and also like what a seemingly small part of an ecosystem can deliver it way beyond its like immediate impact.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like shade from the tree or like acorns from the tree. It was like this whole network that those ancient trees were supporting.
And how like even by not necessarily impacting the tree itself, but by impacting the area around it, how that would like result in impacts on these kind of like ancient oaks. And I think this is the thing about nature that's always like wild to get your head around, is everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
And like there's a really fine balance that I think often we can't even like comprehend.
Yeah.
And I think he started to like open that window for them, and it was quite interesting because you kind of go through that discovery that they've had with them, which was cool.
Yeah. And then he was also talking about the mycelium. So I feel like I watched maybe a documentary on Netflix in the past about mycelium, and that was kind of the first time I'd heard about it.
Secret Life of Trees?
Secret Life of Trees?
Was that book? There's something called Secret Life of Trees.
Yeah, it was definitely a video.
It was a visual format, as we've discovered.
Yeah. But what they were talking about with mycelium is, for those that don't know, it's almost like this underground network of fungus beneath a tree. So it's like the root network and then the fungus within the root network. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the way that they described it on the Wilding, in the Wilding book, was like a switchboard. So like an interconnected network of connectivity that can like relay messages across the soil. So it's not just that like a one tree has like a mycelium underneath it. It's that these mycelium networks beneath loads of different ancient trees all connect to each other, and then they can almost like communicate via that network. So they can send messages about like harmful diseases that might be affecting one tree, and then it can like tell another one through the network. I mean, obviously I don't know exactly how it works. They're not like, psst, like, hey, I got a disease.
FYI. She's got it too.
Yeah.
They're just like gossiping.
Yeah, it's like
gossip networks.
Yeah, it's so cute.
I love
that. But they would like tell each other essentially about like risks and increase the resilience of, I guess, ancient trees that are near each other, which I just thought was really interesting.
Oh, so cool.
And something that you don't, I guess humans are such, well, as we've said, very visual people. So not being able to see what's going on underneath the soil, like I think there's something to say about that not being prioritized because people don't understand it and can't see it and can't see the benefit of it straight away. So this Ted Green man came and told them all about it, and then they said that that was just like a significant turning point in terms of how they viewed the farmland, and also like what their practices had done to the farmland to kind of like destroy some of that natural process.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I found really interesting that came out of that conversation they had with him was they were talking about kind of how they would manage like old oaks or like dying oaks or like dead trees, and this concept of like clearing them away from the landscape, whereas like in nature humans aren't like clearing, like in a completely wild environment you're not having humans like come in and be like, I don't really visually like that, so I'm gonna take it out. And there was a really interesting bit where they were talking about how I think it was Queen Charlotte and King George would import dead trees into Kew to make it seem kind of old and have this continuity of the landscape, because
oh really,
yeah, obviously
cool.
Like that is how things work in nature, and that is like what the continuity is.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a theme that kind of runs through the book that is around how there's a human lens on how we think about wild and nature.
Yeah.
And
even what the countryside should look like.
What does natural look like? Like should it be appealing? Like, we can get more into this later, but I thought that was a really interesting, like, seed, pun intended, that got planted of that theme, like, from that point throughout the book.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that's what Ted Green was also, like, reiterating, that the full life cycle of a tree is a habitat for a whole range of different organisms and animals and bugs, and like, it's not just, it doesn't serve one purpose, and that purpose doesn't stay the same over the full life cycle of the tree. Yeah. So, like, deadwood is super important for a whole host of different organisms as well.
Exactly.
So after Ted came and visited the Knepp, and he was like to Isabella and Charlie, guys, like, trees are so important. Look what you, like, he wasn't being mean, but he was like, look what you've done and look what these trees can do. I feel like Isabella and Charlie were at this turning point where they were like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And then in comes France
Vera.
Nederlands, France.
I really wanted Kim to do a Dutch accent in this podcast episode. I'm so happy she has.
For context, I am Dutch.
Yeah, this is an accurate Dutch depiction.
Yeah. In the movie, again, like in the book, I was reading it with a Dutch accent.
Amazing.
And when Franz popped on screen and I heard that beautiful shallow, I just thought, oh, my people.
My people.
Of course, all great inspiration comes from the Dutch.
It's a very specific accent.
Yes.
And there's a lot of Dutch stuff in this book.
Yeah, I know.
There's like lots going on in Holland, in the Netherlands.
Keeps on giving. So they were speaking to this man called Frans, who had done a similar project in Holland. So there is an area kind of near Amsterdam called the Oostvaarderplassen, I think.
We're going to go with what Kim says.
There's literally like 7 A's in that and like 5,000 vowels. So Oostvaarderplassen, which was the big inspiration behind the Knepp Rewiliding Project. So essentially it was a reclaimed bit of land that was like literally drained seabed that was just left to its own devices. And instead of like managing that abandoned land intensely, they started to introduce large herbivores, so like cattle, horses, red deer, kind of as stand-ins for like what would have been there in the past in like wild Holland. And the theory that they were testing was that they didn't really need to like manage like micromanage ecosystems, and that you could just kind of leave nature to it and it would be fine.
And that like specifically like large grazing animals would do a lot of the work that humans had intervened in the landscape to do.
Yeah.
Where it was thought if you just left it, it would just become kind of barren in well, not barren, but like it wouldn't be productive land.
Yeah, because it would get covered in tree canopy.
Yeah.
Which is what I think that was a lot of the I guess like the theory of what like OG England looked like, was just that it was just trees everywhere. Whereas at the Oostvaarderplassen, they really tested that, and it really, I guess, came that the theory was accurate, and the landscape really became like more of a patchworky landscape of like shrub, grassland, some bigger trees, but the mammals were really like managing it rather than having to have kind of any human intervention to like keep certain things at bay, which was really interesting.
And I thought like the principles behind the project, which I will let you say the name of, and I'm not going to attempt, was like quite interesting. And there was this idea that you don't even really have a concept of what wild looks like, because there's been human intervention on land for hundreds, like thousands, tens of thousands of years. It depends what lens you want to put on it, but like, you know, tens of thousands of years ago, human hunted out megafauna to extinction. Like we used to have like giant deer and stuff, and we don't have them, and in part, not in full, that was driven by humans. So like, what does wild actually look like, and how far back do you take it? And I think that was a really interesting, again, another theme that kept coming up in the book is what is native and what is wild to the land, and when do you draw that line in the sand? And I guess this is kind of what wilding or rewilding is, whatever you want to call it, but you just like leave the land to do its thing, and nature will reveal itself, and it will often be something that we would never expect. And I think as humans, we need to get a bit less cocky and thinking we know
Yeah.
exactly what's going to happen all the time.
I agree. The whole time I was reading it, I was thinking, oh my God, we literally know nothing.
Yeah.
And nature is so much more interconnected and smarter than we will ever be. And I think humans like just very much try to solve problems in isolation. Like, we have a problem with this specific plant. Let's use a pesticide. And it's like we don't even have an understanding of what that plant supports in terms of different types of species. And it's almost just like, like a godly complex to be like, remove that, it's fine.
And like, obviously we're not ecologists, and there's obviously like lots of amazing like conservation and ecology work that happens that's all very important. And there are lots of people who know way more about this than we do and have way more of an understanding about nature. But I think you're right. It's like all of these things in Knepp, in Ostvasterplasten.
Very good.
Really?
Ostvasterplasten.
Again?
Ostvasterplasten?
Ostvasterplasten?
I think. I don't know.
No, we'll go with that. There were so many things that happened that people said would never happen. And in both the cases of Knepp and Ostvasterplassen, people were kind of told, well, we want to see these species reintroduced. And they were told that will never happen. And it did happen. And I think like being open to the prospect that we don't know everything and there's like beauty in that, I think is
gorgeous.
Was one of my messages. Thank you.
That was cute.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you. I'm just a very deep individual. I really like this book.
Yeah, I liked it too.
It really touched me.
I feel like when we've been to conferences and stuff and people have talked about nature, and like the stat that always gets wheeled out is like the UK is one of the most nature depleted places in the world. And I like the first time I thought that, and this is obviously a very naive response, I was like, is it? Like, I grew up in the countryside. I feel like when I'm on the train home, I always see like vast swathes of countryside, but I see the countryside that's very manicured and groomed and like farmed, and that our baseline of what a countryside should look like is that. But actually that is not what a wild Britain looks like.
Yeah, and I think there's this idea of like baseline shift, right? That you get used to, you baseline your understanding of what the norm is on what you know and what you grew up with, and that has obviously changed so much in different generations. But actually when you get into it and you read something like this, there was so much more in like that generations before ours would have thought normal that we just don't, because you said like we live in this kind of emptiness is kind of what the book talks about. And B, it's not just the sexy things that are important. Like, what about the slow worms? What about the fungi? What about the soil? What about the birds? What about the butterflies? What about the pigs?
Name it.
Like, what about the Exmoor ponies? Do you know what I mean? Like, all of these, it made me it has made me think a bit more about. And the last few years since we've been like, I feel like nature's been more of a subject, thinking about what nature actually means, and that nature, like the UK actually is one of the most nature depleted countries when you like kind of shift your perspective just a little bit
of like what it should be.
And
I thought when the book talked about shifting baseline syndrome, like that is something that's always really stuck with me with when we've had conversations around nature in the past. Is like there's a graphic that we can put in like the show notes and on LinkedIn that kind of shows over time like how we almost don't see those steps of nature depletion because it happens relatively slowly over time. It obviously does happen, but because you're just constantly in it, you're not seeing the big shifts. But when you come back and take a bit of a step back, that's when you start to see some of the big shifts. So I actually ran a bit of a shifting baseline syndrome experiment.
Ooh.
Which I think you'll like.
Oh, I'm excited.
So in terms of how it like actually plays out, the shifting baseline syndrome, it's essentially that our grandparents will remember a very different version of nature to our parents, and they will remember a very different version of what nature's meant to look like to us. So I've just done like an anecdotal experiment.
Oh, I'm excited.
I put on my family WhatsApp a brief summary about shifting baseline syndrome and asked everyone to think about what their baseline is and how that might have changed. And I would like to do that with you as well.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give you some examples just to get the cogs whirring. So my sister said that her baseline was very much dependent on like distinct seasons, which I guess isn't directly correlated to like ecosystems, but it's just like a good comparison to make. So like obviously summers being shorter and less hot, but winters being much more like snowy and like expecting snow every winter. And now I feel like, does anyone expect it to snow in winter?
That's a good point.
So she was talking about seasons. And then I asked my dad, and my dad grew up in Holland, and he said he remembers the sea freezing in Holland in 1963.
Wow.
And that's something that he's never experienced since. And then my stepmom also grew up in a relatively rural part of Northumberland, and she says that she really remembers many more swallows, swifts, house martins in the past, and just like watching them swooping around like when she was a child.
Aww.
And like they're definitely the kind of people who are like looking out the window for them now. So I don't think it's like much of a, oh, you're just a bit more like in the magical of it when you're a child.
Yeah.
So I just think that's so interesting.
That is really interesting.
Do you feel like you have had baseline shifts? Like, what do you think of when you think, well, I guess city life?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. But the one that's often like spoken about is like insects and like windshields when you were driving and having to like clear bugs off your windshield. And while I don't necessarily remember that, I do like, since like hearing about that, I notice now when I'm driving that never happens.
Yeah.
Very very rarely do I, like, if ever, in recent memory drive and I'm having to clear bugs off my windshield.
Yeah. Did you ever used to wash the car when you were a kid? Car wash.
Yeah, probably.
I remember being on the number plate and really struggling to get bugs off it. I haven't washed a car in a long time, so I don't know if that is a baseline shift.
But I think like that's like something maybe less of a baseline shift, but like there was a part in this book where they were kind of talking about the shift in kind of what animals we deem appropriate to keep and prioritize and protect. And this idea that there are like rabbits that were introduced by the Normans and hares that were introduced by the Romans. So both of these are species that at some point in history have been introduced. How do you define kind of like what is native and what isn't?
Yeah.
And like rabbits are often seen as a pest, but hares are often seen as like this like epitome of the countryside.
Yeah, like who decides it?
Yeah, and that was one of the examples.
I thought that with the like carcasses chat as well.
Yes.
So this was something that they were talking about at Oostvaardersplassen, whatever that was called, where that was where a lot of like the public outcry would come from when, especially like a larger mammal would pass away or die. Pass away. Sad. R.I.P.
Pass away.
Yeah.
It went to the farm in the sky. Well, not the farm. The Oostvaardersplassen in the sky.
R.I.P. When these animals would die, obviously their carcasses would stay on the land. And in the book, they were talking about how that actually is a great like thing for biodiversity because it creates such a specific niche habitat for especially a lot of like larvae and like different bugs.
Yeah.
But obviously as humans, like that is just something that is quite uncomfortable to see.
Well, and so foreign.
Like,
I think there's like exposure with all of this stuff, right? Like if that was something we were like regularly exposed to, then you know, maybe it wouldn't seem so weird. That is part of like the circle of life, like, you know, the cyclical nature of nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting, the backlash. And like, I don't know how I would feel if I saw it. Probably like the first time I'd be a bit like taken aback and be a bit like, whoa. But if you were educated and read about it, you'd be like, okay, that it makes sense. I understand why it's happening. Like, but it was really interesting, and they obviously want to do this on Knepp, but they can't because of like regulation in the UK. Like they're actually not allowed to do this with like big animals.
I feel like people are starting to get it with dead wood.
Yeah.
So I've seen in a couple of the parks in southwest London that when they like leave Deadwood there, they just put like a little plaque up. So in Wandsworth Common, they've got a massive like dead tree trunk, and they've got a cute little plaque next to it that's like, "Don't worry, like this is good."
Yeah.
And then it talks a bit about like what like organisms it's supporting and like what habitats it's creating. And I feel like people are starting to get that. I'm not suggesting we put like fox carcasses on Wandsworth Common, but it's just interesting like to see that public awareness and perception of that sort of thing is hopefully improving with everyone just getting a bit more exposure to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I think like perception and awareness and education is such a big theme in this book. And obviously the Knepp people were in this position to do this rewilding project and have done it in a very like considered way, but they are still surrounded by like arable agricultural land, and there is a definite like resistance to going against the grain on that, which I found really interesting. And there are some really good quotes. I want to read one out from the chapter 7 called Creating a Mess, where there was, I think, a master's student who interviewed people in the local area on their perceptions. And I feel like some of these are like quite contradicting, which I find quite interesting. So some of the quotes they've put in here is, "I love wildlife. I love the countryside. I love to go somewhere and see butterflies and moths and hedgehogs. I'm not saying I want that all wiped away. It's just that Sussex is not the place for wild, untrammeled land, and it's turning into quite a mess." And I just think like it's
the mess.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's this like perception of, okay, no, I want nature, but I want nature on my terms. Which I found really, really quite like interesting, and I think like has made me think about what I think about nature. I mean, we obviously went to Knepp and we both found it like really beautiful and loved it, but there'll be quite a lot of people who go there and think this is a state.
Well, because it's not like manicured and pruned.
It's not the perception of nature that we have, like you said, because the perception of nature is like rolling hills with like nice boundary fences and a couple of cute little sheep, the occasional lamb in spring, that kind of vibe.
Like cute storybook type animals, rather than like unfortunately like a dead carcass is part of like the life cycle of like the natural world, so and you can't almost have the good without the bad.
Exactly. And I think it's just quite an interesting challenge to like yourself to think about how you perceive wild, how you perceive nature, and how much of that is like a human perception on what it should be, and not actually like, again, that stepping back of like, we don't really know.
That's what I just loved about this whole experiment, is that they were just very happy to be like, we don't know, let's just see what happens. And it's like 25 years in the making, which is what I think is so crazy. And I think that's almost, we were so lucky to go when we did, because we've seen it 25 years on when it's flourished. And like we saw storks and Tamworth pigs and saw like all these amazing animals and turtle doves and like really rare species that we would never usually get the chance to see in the UK. So we almost saw like the best of results.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than like the struggle to get there.
Definitely.
But should we talk about the goat, not the literal goat, but like the greatest of all time character of this book?
Who was it?
Duncan.
Oh, big up Duncan.
When I got to the Duncan bit, I was all ears. I was like, this is my kind of plot line.
I feel like they like really brought to life the characters of like the animals, like Duncan, but also like the pigs and the butterflies. Like there was some really good descriptions of like that brought the wildlife like in particular to life, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. But then when at the end, when they were like, it kind of makes you realize how sterile like farmed animals are, because they're just not living in a natural environment. So their like actual personalities can't like thrive in that environment, because it's just so unnatural, which is really sad. But the upward spiral of that is Duncan. So Duncan is a little pony.
Little Exmoor pony?
Exmoor pony. So as part of the rewilding, they started to introduce different larger mammals that they got like genetically as close to what would have been here natively.
Yeah.
So Exmoor ponies, a couple of types of cows, and Tamworth pigs.
Tamworth pigs, they're so cute.
So they introduced Exmoor ponies onto the site. The horses kind of became kind of like half tame, half wild, because I don't know if they'd got them from like a farm before or if they'd always been wild animal. I guess I
think Duncan had some exposure to like people beforehand, particularly, and I think that's why he was in this like he'd come from maybe being a bit more domesticated. They tried to like wild him, and he did not love.
He was a chaotic king.
He
would just like run around the net having a good time. He would basically like shit everywhere to like stand his ground and like mark his territory. So they said that he would always come up to the receptionist little office on site and just like shit outside her door and be like, "This is my lad now, baby." And then one day he just like walked into the house and he was like, "Hey,
I can't."
The receptionist was like screaming, "Get out, Duncan, get out." And then they would also like host events on site to like fundraise, and they had this like polo event in one of the summers there. So there was all these like very expensive polo horses, like well groomed and like well trained, etc., like gorgeous horses. And then Duncan would just like run over and be like, "Hey." Hi, and then would be like, "Let's have a fight," and just like cause chaos. I know, so cute.
I know.
I just love that mischievous, cheeky chap.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's really good.
And then they were also saying that they had trouble with the pigs as well, because they had events on site, and those little sniffer pigs getting their little noses.
What a good life. Just like poddling around as a pig, getting some appetizers, going home.
Yeah, they loved it.
Pretty decent.
They were like, "Mr. Whippy, have some of that." They had loads of onion bargees.
Yeah, I love that story. Was it a wedding?
Yeah.
And then the mother of the bride was like asking to give the pig some Pepto-Bismol or something. She was worried they'd have a bad tummy. I think that's so cute.
So cute. They just love the onion bargees.
And I feel like this is the thing, like people like love this, like kind of they love like the connection with this kind of thing, and it's like finding that in for people to like feel connected and feel loved, which I would recommend doing by reading this book, because I did enjoy it.
It was so cute. Also, I would definitely share my onion bhaji with the Tamworth pig.
100%.
Yeah, delicious.
The book obviously came out 8 years ago now, and we obviously watched the film, and that came out a few years after the book came out. And I was also doing a bit of like research about what has happened since the book came out at the Knepp, because those are also things that we saw that I think aren't in the book. So the storks,
love that.
They've got the first ever breeding storks back in the UK after like hundreds of years, and they were super cool to see.
Yeah,
like little dinosaurs in the sky.
Yeah, it really felt dinosaur-y.
Yeah,
like I feel like when we went,
descendants of dinosaurs, babe.
Insane.
And you can tell.
You can tell. Pterodactyl.
We're there like, is this Jurassic Park?
It was so good.
That was quite good.
That was good. Well done. I like that. But they said that storks had been native in the UK in the 1400s. Like that was the last time they were seen. And then, they just like got them back. And I think that's why I was like, this is insane when we went, because I've never seen a stork in the UK. Like, why would I have? And then there were just like multiple nests.
Yeah. And they're so iconic because of like, bringing the babies. Like they are like very like iconic animals.
Symbolic.
Yeah.
And iconic.
Yeah,
for sure.
Slay Queen.
Yeah, I love them. I just thought like all the reintroduction of animals that like we would never normally see was just so cool.
Definitely. And my possible favourite.
Ooh.
The beavers. We didn't see the beavers. But I love the concept of there being beavers.
Yes.
Like, the whole beaver thing is wild. So there's obviously these like beavers that they kind of introduced in Devon, which partly like went under the radar, as in like people are like Black Ops releasing beavers.
Oh yeah. Black Ops beaver releases. Beaver bombers.
Beaver bombers.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So I think this what happened in Devon?
Yeah, I think it's happened in a couple of places, but they talked about it in Devon, and the beavers are native to the UK. Like, we had beavers, they got hunted for fur, and then we didn't have them. We don't have them naturally now. And so people have been like, bring back the beavers. Like, they're little water engineers, and they're really cute. Obviously, more important for nature, but they're also really cute. Side benefit, co-benefits. But I think in Devon, people just released them, and then they tried to capture them. So they talk about this in the book. There was this farm, I think it must have been Derek's farm in Devon, where someone had beaver bombed. And
beaver bombed is absolutely an outrageous way to say it. I'm obsessed.
Good. So good. And apparently they tried to keep it under the radar, low key, because if the government or the environment people found out, they would come and be like,
you've got to
gotta take these beavers away from you. And there was a big "Don't take our beavers" protest in Devon, and everyone was like, "Don't take our beavers, we love the beavers." And they got to keep the beavers.
Oh, that's so good.
And now they're
thriving
beavers. And I think they talk about in the book this decision that was coming kind of following a period of review of what happened in Devon. And I think in 2025, Natural England sanctioned the license release of beavers for the first time. So that was only
you don't
last
need a license
year
anymore. Is that what that means? I don't know what that
no,
means.
I think you do still need a license, but they hadn't sanctioned licenses for beavers in the wild, completely wild. They were always penned in, they was fenced in and managed to some extent in an area. Whereas I think for the first time they're putting them in the wild.
That's so exciting.
Which is really exciting.
Do you know what? Sometimes you do need to ask for forgiveness and not permission.
Amen.
And the reason I guess the beaver bombers were out and about was because there was so much regulation and red tape to be able to get licenses to have beavers. And then, like you said, even if you would have them, they would have to be in a penned-in environment.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really quote unquote natural or wild. So, oh my God, what a win off the back of that activity.
I know.
Beaver bomber.
Beaver bomber.
So I think that my main takeaway from the book was that we just don't, especially you and I, as non ecological experts, but we will just never know the impacts of how different species interact with each other. And I thought the amazing example of that was the thistle and the butterflies.
Yes.
So I think maybe a couple of years into the Knepp Rewiliding Project, there was, I guess, this intense growth period of invasion of thistles. And they were saying that it's a farmer's nightmare, and that was really when Charlie started to lose his nerve a bit and being this is such a destructive species. There's also regulation in the UK of how much you can even allow it to grow. So he was we're going to be in breach of regulation if we don't control this. And then I think he was a bit oh God, we're going to have to use some pesticides. This is not good. And then just by chance, and again is such an amazing way of how nature works with itself, but in ways that we would never think it would, there was this mass migration of the painted lady butterfly, which comes from North Africa, migrates thousands of miles across Europe, and then even up to the UK. And I think this also happens once in a generation. So there was this huge crazy butterfly migration. Those butterflies came to the Knepp, landed on the thistles, and these thistles are the environment in which the butterflies lay their eggs. So then there was all these butterfly eggs on the thistles, turned into caterpillars. The caterpillars chowed down on all of these thistles and then left them as kind of skeletons on the land. Butterflies went back to North Africa.
Yeah.
And then the next year, the thistles just didn't grow back at all, and it was just natural. I guess invasive species control.
Just a cycle.
Yeah,
the loop closed.
And they were just what the heck? How has that happened?
Yeah.
This 1 year that we've got this invasive species, this once in a generation butterfly migration has happened. That's saved the project.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
So cool.
So cool.
So cool. We just don't know enough.
Yeah. I loved it. It was so cool. It made me want to go back to the Knepp.
I really want to go back to the Knepp now.
Let's book a trip.
To the Knepp. I think it's not a critique, but it's a bit of a critique. And maybe this isn't the book for this, but I wish there was a little bit more around like kind of the broader systemic solutions, because in the conclusion they talked about you're never gonna be able to expect farmers to give over their land to nature without financial incentives, and none of those structures are like in place. And there was a lot of kind of questions raised around challenges of like reintroduction of species and perception change that needs to happen. And I think it did a really good job of raising those problems. And I think obviously Knepp is the case study for wilding and rewilding. But I would love for there to have been like one chapter at the end, maybe with their like advisory board, where they talked about like here are some recommendations, here's what you can do as an individual, here's the kind of policy that we would like to advocate for. And maybe that's just like me working the space, but that was like the one thing that was missing for me. And I was like
what's next
on a bigger scale than just the Knepp.
And next? Beyond like other farmers wanting to do the same thing or having the means to do the same thing, because it hasn't almost addressed like the systemic challenges that farmers face, that it's a very privileged position to just like kind of give it back without like funding properly.
And I think they obviously like kind of peppered it in throughout the book, but I just would have loved there to like I would love to know from their perspective, like what if they had a magic wand and they could fix 3 things, what would they fix?
That's a very good point.
But other than that, loved it. Felt very optimistic. Felt very hopeful. It was very uplifting, and I can't wait to go back to the Knepp.
So good.
Buzzing.
Loved it. My 2 cents.
Hit me.
My concluding thoughts are, again, maybe I'll also start on my like one little bugbear. Bugbear, nice.
Hey, God, so many good puns in this episode.
So many puns. I sometimes felt a little bit like I was reading an encyclopedia. In that it would kind of, I know you said that you felt that there was like a bigger story throughout the book. I kind of lost that. I don't know if I also like read it in quite like a chunky way, like read it intensely and then put it down, read it, put it down. So I found the story a bit harder to follow, and I felt like the main bulk of the book in the middle was just kind of like talking about a specific species and then a bit of those like loops, but not really weaving that into the overarching story. But I think that's just because I love this story. So maybe that's
fair.
So I really like
so what we're saying, I think, to everyone is read the book, watch the film, and go to the Knepp.
Pretty
you
much.
need to do a combo of all 3. You can't do one in isolation. You must do all 3.
You must read it, you must see it, you must feel it.
Facts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's our first book club episode wrapped up.
Love that.
Is it time to make an announcement?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's keep this train on the tracks, baby.
Choo-choo.
So our next book club book that we would like to delve into is Breathe by Sadiq Khan.
Ooh.
So do you know much about this book?
I don't.
So I also don't. It's been on my bookshelf for a while.
We're coming fresh.
And I need to read it. But I think it was essentially when he was training for the London Marathon, he got really sick from like running around London and like the air pollution that he was just breathing in all the time. And then it kind of like unraveled this like way bigger health crisis in London, and I guess like other big capital cities, of like the pollutants in the air. So it was kind of like the journey to like ULEZ expanding out, like that sort of stuff. So I think it would just be really interesting to read.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just quite a different topic.
Yeah.
From nature to the city.
Yeah, from nature to the city.
I'm excited. So read along, and we'll be doing our episode on it in July.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening, guys.